You're listening to Making the Cut, the mostly true life story of a retired surgeon from 1C Productions.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Seitz, founder and president of 1C Productions. This episode contains explicit language and adult content. It is intended for mature audiences only.
This podcast is brought to you by Coliseum Counsel. Coliseum Counsel is a multifaceted law firm with offices in Naples and Crestview, Florida. Whether it's probate, guardianship, civil litigation, or criminal, let Coliseum Counsel be your one-stop shop to meet all your legal needs. Contact us today to set up a free 30-minute consultation at 239-631-8160.
Daffodils and crocuses peeked through the warming soil in Regent's Park, presaging spring, a new life, a new beginning. Free of Hannah and the deception and the lies, I eagerly placed my sole focus on the studies and Victoria.
I felt lighter now that the relationship with Hannah was over. Is that awful to say? It is the truth, regardless. She deceived me by stopping her birth control. She violated the trust I had placed in her. Yes, there are heaps of irony in my not trusting a woman with whom I was betraying my wife. But there it is. The truth. I signed up at the Royal College of Surgeons in Lincoln's Inn Fields to attend the 6-week preparatory courses. The primary would be given again in early June. For 3 afternoons per week, I went to classes that covered anatomy, physiology, and some pathology to a greater depth than we had studied in medical school. The instructors emphasized practical knowledge. In anatomy, structure related to function, the sage R.J. Last, professor of applied anatomy at the college, delivered lectures. The elderly anatomist gently walked on the stage, picked up some chalk, and drew a horizontal line on the blackboard.
What is this? It's the base of the maxillary sinus.
From this, we immediately knew he would teach on the anatomy of the head and neck. Proceeding from there, he drew additional lines and gradually over the 2 hours, built up layer after layer of a 3-dimensional view of the head with muscles, nerves, and glands, and continuing with the deep muscles of the neck, including the salivary and lymph glands, all the while challenging us in a way that would become a two-way conversation, funny, engaging yet serious. Another lecture began with a different question.
What muscles do you use when pulling a rope? The most important are the laryngeal muscles in your throat and your anal muscles. Otherwise, you dump in your pants.
We got the point. We learned. How could one forget when it was put that way? In contrast, the tall, portly, sagacious Dr. Sloan, professor of applied physiology, strutted onto the stage and enthusiastically engaged us, teaching the basic concepts of physiology, embryology, and the biochemical processes that applied to organs such as the liver. When it came to the diaphragm, he reminded us that during fetal development, it descended from the developing back muscles, and to emphasize the point, he dropped his spread handkerchief like a parachute. When it came to the scrotum, he referred to it as the wrinkled retainer. Wisdom and witticisms permeated his lectures. He made it enjoyable to learn. Not only did I learn the subjects effortlessly, but they became integrated into my surgical being. After each lecture, I walked home from Lincoln's Inn Fields up Holborn, across Russell Square, past University College Hospital, toward our flat at Albany Street, singing and in good spirits, my head abuzz with surgically related matters. Perhaps this time I might be among the lucky 20% to pass the primary. One day, 2 letters arrived from America. Although I had interviewed for surgical training in Boston and New York before returning to London, I didn't really think I stood a chance. Dr. Francis Moore, in Boston, though, wrote a one-liner offering me a position as a second-year resident in general surgery. He asked that I should send him a copy of my curriculum vitae. Would I confirm accepting his offer by the return of mail? He did not even ask for letters of reference. I was overjoyed. A brief 10-minute interview, and I had a job at Harvard. The second letter was from the congenial head of the residency program at the Roosevelt Hospital. It was a lengthier note, proceeding with some courteous niceties, including a request for 2 references, and then offering me a general surgical internship as we had discussed when I was in New York. Oh! The news was liberating. I was pleased to be wanted in both places. I had a potential future in medicine. In America, a community of immigrants, my cultural heritage would not be the stumbling block as it was here in England. The energy of the can-do philosophy meant that Camelot lay across the ocean. More importantly, either position offered me a chance to start in a new place with Victoria. I happily shared the letters with her.
Is this what you want?
Why would I have arranged the interviews if I did not want it?
If you accept a position next summer, I'll have finished medical school, but...
I immediately understood. Neither of us had realized, not even when we were together at the Boston interview, or in New York, or on our way to Antigua, that she would not have had time to complete her obligatory 1-year medical and surgical internships in the UK, the capstone to being a legitimately registered physician in England before my interviews brought offers. Oh, right, of course, no, you should do your house jobs and then we'll go. I took her in my arms, happy to be making our decisions together at last. Now I just needed to choose which proposal to accept, Boston or New York. The letter from Boston offered only a job for me. The letter from New York included an offer for Victoria, too, since they recognized that she too would become a physician. But New York was not Harvard. The choice would place us on an entirely different career trajectory. An academic one at Harvard versus a private practice pathway in New York. I visited John Rackey, now living nearby in a different small flat than the one that Hannah and I had used.
It's not even a consideration, man. The average American medical student would give his right ball to get an offer from Harvard.
Such a forceful statement from an even-tempered Yale graduate and Air Force pilot, cum medical student, who was also seeking training opportunities back home in OBGYN, convinced me. I immediately wrote to Dr. Moore that, while Victoria completed her house jobs, I was studying for my fellowship of the Royal College of Surgeons exam. I knew that as an Anglophile and a recipient of an honorary FRCS degree, he would see my pursuit of the primary as a signal of the seriousness of my intent to become a surgeon. Lastly, I asked if he could assist in getting Victoria a residency in pediatrics at the Boston Children's Hospital, part of the Harvard system and next to the Brigham. I feared his response. If his reply was negative, how could I accept his offer and still do right by Victoria? Was I asking too much of him, though? After all, he barely knew me. As the days passed, I studied hard and tried to put the matter out of my mind. Finally, a second letter arrived from Harvard. Victoria now had an appointment with the program director at the Children's Hospital. I eagerly showed her the letter.
I suppose that decides that, then.
I could not tell if she was happy, discontent, resigned, or something else. I did not ask. Was I too scared to hear her further thoughts? Worried she might put her foot down and remove this opportunity for us to build a life where we were both strangers in a strange land? Yes, That, exactly that. After all of the prejudice and ignorance my heritage brought into my life here in London, after the lies and drama of Hannah, after the longing for Victoria to be my ever-present British Rose, I needed us to start over somewhere else, somewhere that neither of us felt fully comfortable or known. We needed to make our own way in a new place, just the two of us, together. We needed a land filled with all sorts of skin colors and accents. A place where a person could make it on their merit, where hard work and perseverance outweighed background and heritage. We needed America. I think Victoria knew this too, even while she held most of herself away from me and focused on her studies. Now all I needed to do was pass the primary.
Hey, boat owner. You know how valuable your time on the water is. Sea breezes and salty air settle your mind like nothing else, right? But are you in the boat you really want? If it's time to try something new, then it's time you met Charles Zeitz of Pop Yachts. Charles not only brings a buyer to your existing craft, he also listens to your heart's desire and finds you the boat of your dreams. Pop Yachts is the largest boat and yacht broker in all of North America. People come to them every day looking for a craft to buy or sell. Why not sell yours and get what you really want? Go to facebook.com/NaplesMarcoYachts to learn more and get in touch. That's facebook.com/NaplesMarcoYachts.
On a warm June morning, I retraced the steps from Albany Street, past UCH, through Russell Square to the entrance of the examination hall, Queen Square and Old Gloucester Street. As he'd done not so many months ago, a beadle redirected me around the building to a narrow back street, to enter the examination hall via a basement door for the candidates. As I walked, a fear of failure attempted to permeate my awareness, but it barely breached the armor of preparation I'd erected. Mr. Palmer directed me to the same murmur-filled hall with examination desks. I took a seat among my fellow candidates, none of whom I recognized. Face down in front of me lay a white sheet with a blank examination booklet for my answers next to it. At the examiner's instructions, we turned the exam questions over and started.
You may now turn over your question sheet. You have 3 hours to complete your answers in the booklet provided. When you have finished, hand in your booklet to the proctors.
On this occasion, the first question made me smile. Describe the anatomy, relations, and blood supply of the left ureter. I flashed back to my early days with Victoria.
Kidneys.
The position of the left kidney was high up under the rim of a ribcage, just under the swell of her left breast, which she kept covered. The right was in a similar position, displaced 1 inch lower by the liver. The left ureter's route from the kidney to the bladder passed closely by her navel and into a lush black forest of straight pubic hair. My lips kissed her flat abdomen, running my hand tenderly over its softness, sensing every silky cell. In the mounting tension, I took her in my arms. How could I possibly forget that live lesson? Ah, Victoria, my love. Let's start over in America, I thought, as I wrote out the answer with a flourish. Let us have the good life, together as we dreamt of. We only need a fresh place, away from here. Several other questions followed, which I answered, finishing in time. After a 90-minute lunch break, I faced the second written examination with just as much ease. I exited the examination hall into a late afternoon breeze. Unlike the time before, I came home to find Victoria waiting with a cup of tea.
How was it?
Interestingly, not as traumatic as I had thought. I was able to answer all the questions thanks to the college surgical courses.
I knew you'd do well.
The tough exam is in 2 days, though. Let's see how that goes. The dreaded viva voce, the oral exam where the examiners can quiz me about any aspects of surgical anatomy, physiology, and pathology.
Don't let's think of that now. You must be exhausted. Finish your tea and let's get some rest.
Exhausted, I fell into a deep sleep lying next to my wife in our cozy double bed. Two days later, I entered the back of the examination hall by the basement door, where I was met by Mr. Palmer.
Candidate number?
24. His skill of organizing the candidates for the orals was renowned. He gathered us into groups of 12 and reviewed the procedures.
When your number is called, go to your assigned cubicle. Each of the 2 examiners will question you for 15 minutes. I will ring a bell, and you will move to the next cubicle. Should you perchance know the professor, excuse yourself and come see me. You will see another 2 groups in the afternoon.
At 10 a.m. the bell rang, and Mr. Palmer directed the first 12 candidates into their cubicles. A calm 30 minutes later, our group filed toward the front of the firing line. Sitting down, I was asked my number, and after a polite greeting, I faced my first question.
What is a sphincter?
It's an area of high pressure surrounding a cylindrical structure, such as the orbicularis oris, the larynges, the esophageal, and the anal sphincter, controlled by slings of muscles.
Would you consider the pylorus in the duodenum a sphincter?
Indeed.
And how would you describe its function?
I was actually having fun. Fully in the present and totally engaged by the questions. My examiner's partner took over and fired his questions at me. My responses were cogent and in-depth. Before I knew it, I was reluctant to leave, enjoying facing the challenges thrown at me and sharing the information I had acquired. I moved to the next cubicle feeling in high spirits, like a boxer eager to step into the ring. The whole process was repeated when I faced a different pair of professors and a different set of anatomy questions. In the afternoon, I faced the physiology viva voce. Once more I felt confident and answered convincingly. The questions given to me ranged from cardiac output to the amount of bile the liver produces after receiving 1 unit of whole blood. I knew the answers. The end of my examination drew nigh, and I all but bounced on my heels. I'd been told that candidates who did exceptionally well sometimes got a question at the end to determine the real limit of their knowledge. On the other hand, some candidates who were borderline were offered a lifebuoy question. So I was caught off guard when my final question came.
What do you think causes birth defects in infants born with shortened limbs?
This way-out question meant that I had either done well enough not to continue probing my knowledge, or that I was a lost cause. My previous failure and the 20% pass rate reared up. So much was riding on this exam outcome. I wanted to yell, no, please ask me a relevant one. Give me another chance. I have a few minutes left. Panic. The same panic from that day Mother left me in Germany with strangers speaking a language I didn't understand. From the first day walking into a classroom in Manchester without speaking English. From the first day walking into a classroom in Cairo not speaking Arabic. From the day she'd left me in Manchester with no friends or support. From the day she'd read my father's letter threatening to die, and then the day shortly thereafter he did just that. From every time a woman had shown interest in me only to walk away. From the day Bowtie gathered the righteous indignation of the English against my brown-skinned self, had them hurl insults and toilet paper rolls at me in class. From the moment sitting before Sir Max and being told to go back to Egypt, that I was not welcome in England. All the old panic welled up from deep within me, An instant replay of the terror of abandonment.
It must be such a ubiquitous agent. Perhaps it's one of the new dishwashing soaps contaminating dinner plates, or something similar.
I was out of time to salvage myself. I left. Had I failed again? Had I just squandered our opportunity to start over in America? For surely the positions would not be offered to us if I failed. I worried. I paced. I fretted. I waited. Around 4 p.m. I crowded into a stuffy windowless room, sat about with the other students in various states of anxiety. Had I just wasted months and months of study? Derailed a fresh future with my lovely wife? Fulfilling our dreams of treating patients and ushering in the healing process? Finally, Mr. Palmer appeared at the door, list in hand.
I will read out only the numbers of successful candidates. Please step forward. I will ask you if you are Dr. So-and-so, and when you acknowledge your name, I will tell you, "Congratulations, Mr. So-and-so," indicating as you step through the door that you are on your way to becoming a surgeon.
He raised his paper.
Candidate number 3. Candidate number 8.
My heart started to race.
Candidate number 10.
My grey suit became a tightly fitting sweatsuit.
Candidate number 14.
My body perspired profusely.
Candidate number 19. Candidate number 20.
Did I really put in all this effort, all this work, only to fail? Right here, right when I needed it most.
Candidate number 21.
That's it then. I have to have failed. To obey the law of averages, only 20% pass. I can do the math. Too many candidates had already been called.
Candidate number 24.
What? Did he say 24? I rose on wobbly legs, gathered myself together, and numbly strode to the front door.
Dr. McGead?
Yes.
Congratulations, Mr. McGead.
And with a wave of his hand, he ushered me out into the cool day. A reborn man. I started to run down the street, through the light rain, when a taxi appeared driving in the middle of the one-way street. Taxi! Taxi! Another man on the opposite pavement had hailed it too. The taxi stopped in the middle of the street. I got there at the same time the other man did. I got in first. As I looked across the cab, though, I recognized one of my examiners. Without a second thought, I relented and exited. I raised my face toward the rain, running towards Albany Street, gasping for air. The raindrops mixed on my face with tears. Of joy, yes, but also the shedding of self-pity and anger by the persistent shadow of my dead father, the man who was never satisfied by what I achieved and who was perpetually disappointed in me. Of my absent mother, the woman who never had time or attention for me. Of Bowtie, of Sir Max, of all of them. Fuck you, Dad, I did it. Fuck you, fuck all of you, I passed. I looked like an escaped mental case, and for the first time in my entire life, didn't give a care for what anyone thought about me. I was standing on the first rung of the ladder to become a surgeon. Nothing would stop me now. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Zero. I dashed to the door of our Albany Street flat, and there, my love, my darling Victoria, stood, anticipating my homecoming.
You're crying, darling. Did you fail again? Oh, it'll be all right. You'll see.
No. I passed.
You passed?
We're going to America.
With passing, I now stood on the first rung of the British surgical ladder. There was only looking upwards in my training to one day become a consultant at a teaching hospital. America would broaden my horizons and give me unlimited opportunity. With Victoria by my side, I was ready to face the new world.
Thanks for listening to this project from 1C Productions, where thought-provoking media comes alive. Be sure to check out other 1C shows like Freevangelic, in which a married couple discuss their walk out of lifelong evangelicalism and into a new way of being. Their search for truth might open doors for you as well. Learn about Freevangelic and other 1C Productions podcasts at just1c.com. That's JUSTONEC.com.
You've been listening to Making the Cut from 1C Productions. Making the Cut was written, produced, and directed by Rebecca Seitz, based on Michael McGead's manuscript, Mastering the Knife. Noah James played Michael McGead. Other roles brought to life by the vocal talents of Kay Alluvian, Anderson Seitz, and Andy Hodgson. Audio engineering provided by Zisher LLC. Making the Cut theme music by Kyle J. Baker. Learn more at makingthecutpodcast.com.